Everybody, good evening. Thank you, Pilar, for the invitation. So, firstly, I will take the perspective of big data from the terms of the billions of devices which we are going to see. I know that space quite well. I teach at Oxford University data sciences for the Internet of Things, and at the UPM data sciences for smart cities. Both are very similar, both are very technical, and both have similar foundations and similar problems. If I were to look at it in a nutshell, what we are saying is we have data, we have Internet of Things, we have possibilities, and we have problems. And the stakes are very high. How high? If you compare with the mobile industry, most people say that by 2020 we are supposed to have 50 billion connected devices. But if you put that in context with the mobile industry, the first cellular network was in 1979. The first billion phones was in 2002. 2 billion phones were in 2005. 3 billion phones were in 2007. 4 billion connections were in February 2009. By 2014, we had reached 7.2 billion phone connections. So if somebody says to you that by 2020, they're going to have 50 billion of something, that is a very big number. It's a very big number by any standards. And the interesting thing about that number is nobody is contesting it. At the moment, nobody is saying that this number is not going to be true. And that means we have possibilities to make a big difference between the next 5 years. Why next 5 years? Because at the moment what we are seeing is iBeacon. Most of you, if you've got Apple, you know what iBeacon is. It's a sort of local connectivity thing. But if you look at that kind of local area connectivity coming through Bluetooth 4.0 on phones, and then you compare that with 2020 with 5G providing wide area connectivity. So between those two dates, 2015 to 2020, fortunes of countries and companies will be made, and there'll be big winners, maybe even bigger than what we saw with the Nokias of the previous revolution. I think that what it means is more important than just the sensors, just the numbers of sensors. So here are a few things I'm going to talk to you about what it means. There's a guy called John Hagel who works for Deloitte, and he said that Internet of Things is about making dumb things smarter and living things more robust. If you combine that definition, it practically includes just about everything you want to look into. So you are making dumb things smarter, you're making living things more robust. And the other interesting thing about that kind of a network is it requires a different type of a network. So who's heard of Sigfox here in this room? Sigfox? Good, perfect. At least we got somebody, which is actually a shame, because European company, French company, which raised $110 million last week, partly also I think funded by Telefonica as well. And what they are trying to do is create a specific network for Internet of Things, and it's not a competitive thing. So it's not against a particular type of network, but they raised $110 million, and I think that that's a hugely disruptive force coming forward. The other thing about smart cities, as the previous speaker mentioned, but from my perspective, smart cities and IoT are interesting because a smart city accelerates both the bad and the good. So what I mean by that is when you have a lot of people coming into a city, you get all the bad problems accelerated by the same time. So you get pollution, you take a traffic congestion and so on. And with the Internet of Things, you basically dampen the negative effects of the bad happening to you. And that is one of the biggest use cases of the Internet of Things. Almost every Internet of Things in the smart cities you can see is trying to actually pull down a negative process, whether it is pollution, air congestion, traffic, and so on. And that process has occurred because we now have a feedback loop from individuals back to the sensor and back to the service. Disruption is already all around us. I saw this recently, which said that in the 3 U.S. states of Washington, Utah, Colorado, and Vermont, truck driver was replaced by a software developer as the most common job. And those states are not San Francisco. This is, if you think about Colorado and Utah, you think that something has changed here. Something very deep has changed here, and it is going to change even more. The final thing before I go to the conclusion is if you look at Edward Deming, so I think that we're almost looking at Edward Deming 2.0. So Edward Deming's idea was to integrate a supply chain, just-in-time manufacturing and so on. With the Internet of Things with sensor networks, we actually have the full chain much more quantitatively than we would have to do. I'll conclude the final thing with one positive and one negative. The positive being last week a guy called DJ Patil became the chief data scientist of the US, and he made a statement which said that there are 4 zettabytes of data worldwide. That means approximately every person taking a picture every second for every day for 4 months. So it's that kind of data which is already out there. And the other bit is that most of the beneficiaries of big data so far have been the big companies, the internet companies, but the next beneficiary is going to be the precision medicine, manufacturing, and so on. So I think we should not equate big data with the sort of what we are seeing today. Finally, I conclude on a note of caution. And the note of caution has to do with, whenever people talk about big data, they always talk about privacy, but they don't talk about equality. I think that equality is a very, very dangerous thing which is going to be losing to us now. Today, 0.1% of the US population has the same wealth as the bottom 90%, and the last time that happened was in 1930s. What is the other interesting thing about all of these technologies is they are winner take all. Yes, so we are seeing one Uber, we are seeing something else, and that organization becomes a massively big organization. I think there is a regulatory question mark of how we can balance some of these things, especially from the point of view of people who may not be franchised by these things. And I think that concludes what I have to say. I think I'm very optimistic about this because my vision of big data is around the Internet of Things and sensor networks. But I think that vision over the next 5 years will be very, very disruptive, and very happy to take questions later on. Thank you. Thanks.